Welcome to Much Ado About History, and welcome to another episode of my Civil War cooking series. And today what we are going to make is beef jerky. So many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I bought these two cookbooks, I think in a museum gift shop. And one is Union Army Camp Cooking, the other one is Confederate Camp Cooking, and I've used these many times throughout the years. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using a recipe from the Confederate Camp Cooking book, and we're going to be making beef jerky. And so why beef jerky? Well, soldiers on the march, one thing they need is protein. But if you're marching, you don't always have the time to stop and make a fire and grill some meat or something. You might only have maybe a 10-minute halt or a rest in between marching, and you need something quick that's ready for you to eat. And you also need food that's going to last. It's not going to spoil on you. So jerky, or something that was like smoked, is something that a soldier could keep in their pocket, in their haversack, and they could pull out at a moment's notice and have a little snack, almost like a little meal. And so it was the ideal thing for a soldier. So in a time before refrigeration, people would preserve meats by either drying them out, or by packing them in salt, or by smoking them. And so that's what we're doing today. Is we've got the Weber kettle going, and we're going to make some jerky. Okay, so I'm using a Weber kettle with just charcoal briquettes, and this is meant to be on like a very low fire. This is not like we're grilling a steak on a hot fire for just a few minutes on a side. This should be a low fire, low temperature, and we're going to actually cook this for a long time. So if you're trying this at home, this is not really an after-school project. This is more of a weekend project because it's going to take you a little bit of time. It's not very difficult, but here's what you're going to need. The first thing you'll need is about a 1-pound flank steak, and you want it, the leaner the better. You want as little fat on it as possible, and you're going to slice it very thin. And here's kind of a demonstration. Okay, you want to slice it really nice and thin, and you want it so that you're going with the grain of the meat, and that's going to make a nice chunk of jerky right there. And you can kind of see the spices that I have in it right there. And that's on the griddle ready. That's on the grill ready to go. So you're going to slice it nice and thin, and the ingredients that it calls for are very simple. You probably have them in your household. So this is really kind of an inexpensive thing. The steak cost me about $10, and all the spices I had at home in our spice cabinet. So you'll need 1 tablespoon of salt, teaspoon of black pepper, teaspoon of red pepper, teaspoon of garlic powder, and you're going to whisk that all together and whisk in about 1 cup of water. Throw in maybe a dash or two of liquid smoke, which kind of gives it this like nice smoky flavor. And then you kind of put it in a dish or a pan, you cover it, and you let it sit overnight. I let mine sit for about 18 to 20 hours. And this is what's left of the marinade that I had. Okay, see it's kind of brown. You can see a lot of the spices floating around in there. And so all my meat is on the grill, ready to go. And I left the middle open because that's where I have all my charcoal briquettes. In the book it says use about 12 charcoal briquettes. I think I used maybe about 15. Made them in a little pile, and I've got the jerky pieces around it because we don't really want them over the fire. You actually could do this on a gas grill if that's all that you have, like a propane gas grill, but you would not cook it on direct heat. So if you can turn one side on, put your meat on the other side. Okay, so this is all ready to go. I've got my coals piled up in the middle. Okay, and now that's ready to go. So the other thing is we want to cook this at a low temperature. And so if you have a grill that has like these little holes here, these are called dampers, and the more you open them up, the more it lets air in, and you'll have a hotter fire. The more you close them down, it shuts down the amount of air that can go in, so your coals will burn longer, but it won't burn as hot. Okay? So this is going to take us about 6 hours. This is a long, slow process over a nice, slow heat. Okay? So you've got some time now. Once you've got this on the grill, you've got some time. Go off and do something else, or go to the park, or do something. So I'm going to let this go for about 3 hours, and we'll check back in a few hours to see how it's doing. Hey everyone, so it's been about 2.5 hours since we put our beef jerky on the smoker. Remember, this is a long process. This is about a 6-hour process to cook it. So it's been about 2.5 hours. We're going to get a little bit of a check. Remember, this is the book we're using, Confederate Camp Cooking, and the actual recipe name for this is the 8th Virginia jerky recipe. So it's the 8th Virginia Regiment. This was their recipe. I will post the entire recipe and ingredients and instructions in the description underneath this video. So we're getting close to about halfway through. So let's take off the lid and see how it's looking. Okay, so it's getting there, right? It's starting to look a little bit more like cooked meat. We're starting to get a little bit brown around some of the edges. Okay, fire's nice and low and slow. So still definitely got a couple more hours to go, probably 2.5 to 3 hours to go. So we're gonna let that keep going, and we've still got some time, and it's a hot day, so I'm gonna go jump in the pool. See you in a couple hours. Okay, so we're just under 6 hours now since we first put the jerky on, and I think we're gonna take a look at it. So it's been a really hot day. It's been a beautiful day. Spent a lot of these hours in the pool, and so now we're gonna see if this work is paid off. So let's open up the lid and see what we've got. Okay, and that's kind of exactly how we want it to look, right? It's kind of nice and dark, and it's got kind of a little charred look to it. So just to be completely honest, there were probably 2 times I put a few more coals on just to kind of kick the heat up just a little bit. But it's a little warm, but I can still touch it. So here's one little piece, right? It kind of pulls apart like that. Yeah, that's really, really good. That's really good. That's kind of the perfect way you want it to be. So the thing about this is, if you put this in some sort of like a Ziploc bag and you leave it in a cool, dry place, this will probably be good for about a week. And then if you just want to have a little snack, you've got some jerky. So this is the 8th Virginia Regiment's beef jerky recipe. Great things for soldiers to have on the march. And just remember this, if you're going to attempt this, make sure you have your parents' permission or supervision before you're going to use the grill. It's a big time commitment, it's a lot of work, but in the end, it's all worthwhile. And that's what you're going to get at the end of it all. Okay? So good luck, I hope you try this, and we'll see you next time on Much Ado About History.